North Korea suddenly withdrew permission for UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon to visit the Kaesong Industrial Complex without explanation. U.S. Congressman Ed Royce, currently serving as chairman of the U.S. House Committee on Foreign Affairs, publicly declared that the Dokdo islets are part of Korean territory. And the first case of Middle East respiratory syndrome has been diagnosed in Korea, putting health authorities on high alert. Hello and welcome to News Today on KBS World. It's Thursday, May 21st. I'm Luke Clary. North Korea has suddenly withdrawn permission for UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon to visit the Kaesong Industrial Complex. There was no explanation for the decision, but it appears that the regime is unwilling to cooperate to end tension on the peninsula for the time being.
North Korea suddenly refused early Wednesday morning to allow UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon to visit the Kaesong Industrial Complex. The notification was delivered directly from North Korea's permanent representatives to the UN in New York to the UN headquarters.
이러한 갑작스러운 철회 이유에 대해 아무런 설명은 없었습니다. 이러한 평양의 결정은 대단히 유감스러운 일입니다.
When the UN chief was visiting President Park Geun-hye, he criticized the North's action as an unprecedented diplomatic discourtesy to the UN. Nonetheless, he said he would like to push for another visit to the North at a more appropriate time, repeating his willingness to go to North Korea during his term. Seoul also urged Pyongyang to become more involved in improving inter-Korean relations.
국제사회가 내민 대화와 협력의 손을 잡고 한반도 평화와 남북관계 개선의 길에 나설 것을 다시 한번 촉구하는 바입니다.
The cancellation of UN Secretary General Ban's visit to the North has dashed hope for a breakthrough in inter-Korean relations for the time being.
The Korean government has a bone to pick with Washington officials talking about the THAAD missile defense system. Until now, Seoul and Washington said that there have been no official discussions on the controversial defense system, but that may soon have to change.
The South Korean government says it will not respond to every statement made by U.S. officials. Seoul even expressed discontent at Washington's pressure regarding the deployment of the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense Missile System. The presidential office said it would deliberate on the military usefulness and security-related benefits of the THAAD system if Washington submits an official request. Even if negotiations on the matter begin officially, the required costs will be an issue. One THAAD system costs around $1.8 billion US. This includes 6 launch bases, missiles, radars, and a control tower. It also costs over $9 million to launch one THAAD missile. If the government decides to deploy the THAAD system, South Korea and the U.S. will likely square off over the associated costs. As Washington is stepping up pressure with regard to the THAAD deployment, the possibility of its discussion at the South Korea-U.S. Defense Ministerial meeting slated for the end of this month in Singapore cannot be ruled out.
U.S. Congressman Ed Royce, who currently serves as chairman of the U.S. House Committee on Foreign Affairs, publicly declared that the Dokdo islets are part of Korean territory. Here's more.
The chairman of the U.S. House Committee on Foreign Affairs, Representative Ed Royce, said he believes the Dokdo islets is Korean territory based on historical facts, making his position clear on the issue at the Rayburn House office building on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C.
In terms of history, Dokdo Island is part of Korea.
He made the statement when asked by a Korean lawmaker to clarify his position on the matter during a Korean-American leadership meeting and received a standing ovation for his reply. The U.S. congressman made a similar statement that based on history, the Dokdo islets are clearly Korean territory in the meeting last Thursday with a Korean parliamentary delegation led by the Saenuri Party's Lee Byung-seok. Last month, during Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's state visit to the U.S., Representative Royce released a statement demanding the Japanese leader issue an official apology for the Japanese military's forced recruitment of sex slaves during World War II.
A man who recently visited the Middle East has been diagnosed with Middle East respiratory syndrome for the first time in Korea. The syndrome causes high fever, difficulty breathing, and can even result in death. The man's wife, who had been nursing him, has also been infected with the disease, putting health authorities on high alert.
A 68-year-old man sought medical help on May 11th due to a high fever and severe coughing. The symptoms appeared about a week after he returned from Bahrain in the Middle East, where he stayed last month for 2 weeks because of business. He received treatment for nearly 10 days in several hospitals, but his condition did not improve. An exam conducted by health authorities revealed that the man had Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, or MERS. It's the first confirmed case of MERS in Korea. The man's wife, who had been nursing him, has also been diagnosed with the disease, bringing the total number of MERS patients in the nation to 2. Humans are known to become infected with the MERS coronavirus through direct contact with camels or bats. But the cause of the Korean patient's infection has yet to be determined, as he never came into direct contact with animals. Symptoms similar to those of MERS have also been found in a 70-something patient who was hospitalized in the same room with the MERS patient, prompting health authorities to launch an investigation. Dozens of medical staff who treated the patients have been isolated and are undergoing checkups. The Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has raised the alert level for MERS from blue to yellow and set up quarantine headquarters.
Now it has become possible for people to use their smartphones to control their home electronic appliances, even when they're not at home. Consequently, the competition among mobile service providers is growing even more intense over the smart home market.
This homemaker out running errands suddenly remembers that she left the pot boiling on the stove. But she doesn't panic. Instead, she takes out her smartphone to shut down the gas valve.
우리 나이에는 진짜 깜빡깜빡하잖아요. 그걸 바깥에 딱 나가지고 문을 잠갔는지 가스를 잠갔는지 뭐 이럴 때 이 기기가 있으니까 너무 편리하고 안심이 되는 것 같아요.
Temperatures inside the home can be controlled by turning on the thermostat from outside before a person arrives home. The humidity can be adjusted with a remotely controlled dehumidifier as well. Electronic appliances are linked to a smartphone application to allow phone users to control the appliances from outside of home. All this is made possible by the Internet of Things, or IoT.
저희 서비스를 기반으로 해서 다양한 파트너사들이 다양한 기기를 연동하게 될 것입니다.
Korea's IoT market is expected to balloon to more than $15.5 billion by 2020. The competition for a share of it is intensifying just as quickly as its growth.
Private economic think tanks in Korea have slashed their economic growth outlooks for this year due to the low economic recovery in the nation. The Korea Development Institute has even warned that the nation's economic growth rate might plunge to about 2% this year.
Although domestic demand is improving, the nation's dwindling exports are hampering economic growth. That's the reason cited by the Korea Development Institute for slashing Korea's economic growth outlook for this year by 0.5 percentage points to 3% in just 5 months. The KDI's outlook is even lower than those of the Bank of Korea and the IMF. The difference compared to the government's outlook is even larger. The KDI warned that even the 3% outlook is possible only if the government's reforms regarding public servants' pension and the labor market produce results, and if the Bank of Korea makes 1 or 2 additional rate cuts. Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan also lamented poor progress in restructuring and reforms, citing the positive results of Japan's economic policies.
자칫하다가는 일본은 뛰어가고 뛰어가는 일본에 기어가는 이 한국 이렇게 신세가 처지가 바뀔 지금 우리가 굉장히 커지고 있는 이런 상황입니다.
Another think tank, the Korea Institute for International Economic Policy, is urging the government to boldly implement regulatory reforms involving corporate investment, beginning with fields which don't cause much conflict of interest, such as tourism.
With the summer approaching, anti-mosquito scented wristbands are gaining popularity among children. They're a simple industrial product, but the problem is that their effectiveness has not been proven, yet they're sold at drugstores nationwide.
This mother bought a children's wristband, which is said to repel mosquitoes. It's decorated with a cartoon character, popular among children. But it didn't work effectively.
향이 지금 너무 독하고 효과는 없고 모기는 여전히 물리고 그래서 이건 아니다.
These anti-mosquito wristbands whose effects and safety have not been proven are sold at every drugstore in residential areas. Even a pharmacist recommends it as an effective mosquito repellent.
효과가
있어요. 아로마라고 했었는데요. 절대 목에 좀 보인다 그러면 치워서 이렇게 괜찮고요.
Consumers are lured by advertising phrases like a summer necessity, lasting for 24 hours, and containing citronella, which is a main ingredient for making mosquito repellents. The wristbands are a simple industrial product, but consumers easily believe in their effectiveness since they're sold at drugstores. The government's supervision is still slack on the scented wristbands for children sold by profit-pursuing manufacturers and drugstores.
Yeonsan-gun of the Joseon dynasty was a notorious tyrant, and his story is frequently rehashed in movies or dramas. Well, a new period film focused on Yeonsan-gun's disloyal subjects who tried to bring the king under control has debuted. This and more coming up on today's entertainment news.
In the 11th year of Yeonsan-gun's reign, 10,000 beautiful women from across the nation are gathered against their will for the king. Based on a little-known historical event in which women were thus conscripted, the movie sheds light on the power struggle between Yeonsan-gun and his subjects from a new perspective. In addition to Yeonsan-gun himself, the movie vividly depicts the destructive desire of Im Sung-jae and his son, who were in charge of procuring the women.
시도 쓰고 그림도 그리고 춤에도 능하고 그래서 우리가 생각하는 그냥 단순한 폭군이 아닌 조금 더 지금으로 따지자면 좀 아티스트적인 왕 같지 않은 다른 모습이 나오지 않을까.
When I joined the CIA, I thought I was going to be this amazing spy.
An overweight and timid desk-bound CIA agent transforms into a spy. This is a comic action film that overturns preconceptions about spy movies. A high school girl devotes herself to developing makgeolli to realize her late father's unfulfilled dream. It is a warm-hearted comedy based on a true story of high school girls in Chungju, North Chungcheong Province.
Voice phishing or phone scams accounted for over $183 million in total losses last year. More troubling is that these financial deceptions have grown more sophisticated and diverse. Here's more on the kinds of cons out there and how consumers can protect themselves. So-called voice phishing or over-the-phone financial scams first became prevalent in the early 2000s. Many people were exploited, even though the scamsters sounded unnatural and spoke in an unusual accent.
이번 사건 수사 중에 본인과 연루된 부분이 있어서 조사서 연락드린 겁니다. 분명히 이분일 수도 있으니까 제가 주민번호부터 확인하겠습니다.
But the scam operations have become increasingly more cunning in recent years. One case involved a huge financial transaction through a borrowed account on the pretext of raising a person's credit rating to convert an existing home mortgage loan to a low-interest one.
막상 계산은 다가오는데 나중에 갚으더라도 대출을 좀 하고 싶은 마음에서 그렇게 한 건데.
The number of phone scam victims increases every year, but the arrest rate of fraudsters is on the decline.
정확한 자료와 정보를 가지고 쪽집게처럼 파고들기 때문에 쉽게 당할 수 있는, 넘어갈 수 있는 그런 정도까지 이제 발전해 온 거죠.
Sports commentator Ha Il-sung was once conned by someone pretending to be his banker. Since he was a longtime customer of the bank, he didn't suspect anything as he deposited about $2,800.
공인이시고 믿을만 하니까 저희들이 서류로 이렇게 하는 겁니다. 그 사람이 한번 딱 이렇게 빠지니까 정신없이 빠지더라고요.
Lawmaker Son Min-chun also got a phone call from someone pretending to be a former Maritime Affairs Minister Lee Ju-young and demanding $4,600.
이재용 의원님 목소리하고 너무 똑같은 거예요. 광역시장님 좀 바꿔달라고 하니까 회의 중이라고 안 바꿔준다 그러는 거예요.
Another form of financial scam called farming involves opening a fake online financial site to steal personal information. Caution is the best prevention in these phone fraud cases. Suspect the worst and take every precaution if you get suspicious phone calls so you won't fall victim to these financial deceptions. And now let's take a look at the markets, followed by the world weather. And that's it for this edition of News Today. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you again at the same time tomorrow. Goodbye.